Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of C-PTSD on the Road to Recovery with Pop Woodman. Today, we're going to talk about three different things that are symptoms of C-PTSD. Rather common ones, and some that certainly have affected me over the years as well. We're going to be looking at intrusive thoughts, nightmares, and flashbacks. So, we're going to look at them as three separate things that we need to go over today. So, intrusive thoughts, nightmares, and flashbacks. What are they? Well, intrusive thoughts are unwanted thoughts or unpleasant thoughts that come out of nowhere. They just all of a sudden happen. You're either thinking something that's unpleasant or they're things that you don't even want to think about, but they come to your mind anyway. And these are things that are usually past events and things one wouldn't want to normally think of, but you do. And what comes with this is you end up having doubts about yourself, you have negative thoughts, you're remembering harmful events, uh, embarrassing events, guilt, and distress. So, a lot of people deal with these who have both PTSD and complex PTSD. But these intrusive thoughts can really wear on you after a while if they keep coming. And I think that's the issue. For the longest time, I didn't really have these intrusive thoughts until about 10 years ago. And then they started with a vengeance, if you will. All of a sudden, there they were. I was thinking about things in the past, things that weren't good, harmful events, times when I was embarrassed, things I felt guilt about all these years, and so on. And certainly the distress of those times, those traumatic times. And boy, they're really bothersome. And I think that's why they call them intrusive thoughts, because they intrude on your life. They intrude on your happiness, on your contentment, and cause all these things to happen. The doubts, the negative thoughts, the harmful events, the embarrassment, the guilt, the distress. I could go on and on and on with the things that may come up in these intrusive thoughts. And so if you're experiencing these things, understand that this is part of having complex PTSD. And it can be worked on, and we'll talk about how to do that as things go on as we go through our lessons here. I say lessons, sorry, I'm used to being talking as a preacher, but each episode we will look at things, and we're going to go through things piecemeal. I'm not going to dive deep into anything right away because I think it's important to take it one step at a time. You didn't get to where you are instantly. The whole thing about complex PTSD is it is a compilation of events throughout a lifetime, from the time you're an infant into adulthood. These things keep adding up and keep piling up, and they're in our subconscious, if you will. Uh, they're in our consciousness as well, because we don't forget when things have happened to us. But some of these thoughts will crop up, and I'm going to help you as I learned to do these things. I'm going to help you learn how to do these things too, how to cope with this idea of intrusive thoughts and how they make you feel. I know when these intrusive thoughts hit me, it just bums me out, plain and simple, because I'm brought back to things I never wanted to go back to, but here I am thinking about it, and it's having an absolute less than positive effect on me. Let's put it that way. And they come out of nowhere. They can happen at any time. Something just triggers them. Hate to use that word, but maybe we could use prompt because triggered is overused. But something prompts them. You either the environment you're in, or they just come. Your brain says, "Hey, remember when?" So those are intrusive thoughts. Well, nightmares. That sounds kind of self-explanatory, doesn't it? That everybody has nightmares, but when it comes to complex PTSD, I think the nightmares are a little more intense, and they're reminding us again of events of the past and the things that are affecting us today. And nightmares reflect the anxieties we have in our lives, they reflect the fears we have in our lives, and unresolved issues as well. And these nightmares, a lot of times, we're replaying these traumatic events in our sleep. There's times I've had that happen, vividly dreaming about things that happened in the past, and then I wake up and I'm a little worn out and a little stressed afterwards because I really didn't want to go back there. And the thing is with these nightmares is it's often the same images repeating uh, over and over and over again, whether it be within that one nightmare or where you have the same nightmare time and time again about past events. And like I said earlier, it's the reflection of anxieties and fears in your life, and it comes out in your dreams. Now, flashbacks. We all have a pretty good idea what that means, and that means to be re-experiencing events with sensory and emotional intensity. And they can come and they can hit very hard. I know there's times I have flashbacks in the middle of the day or in the middle of when I'm doing something. These experiences come back to mind and they're very vivid to me. They're very intense. And again, don't always know what prompted them or triggered them, but boy, it brings back reminders of what has happened in the past. And sometimes when these are going on, you will lose awareness of the present. In other words, you'll lose awareness of the moment you're actually in because you're off in a whole nother place while you're having this flashback. And like I said, it triggers reminders, and they can be unpredictable. You never know when it's going to happen. It's when your mind decides, oh, it's time to remind us of something that happened in the past. And like I said, I deal with these three things: intrusive thoughts, nightmares, flashbacks, and really all of them are unpredictable as to when they're going to happen. Um, I equate it with someone who's had drug-induced flashbacks. As they always said about people who did hallucinogens, they have flashbacks later in life. That chemical has affected the brain, and it will come back at some point. Well, the reality with complex PTSD is these things have affected our mind and are still within our consciousness and our unconscious mind. They are there and they're going to come back, sometimes at the worst possible times, when you're just in the midst of something very important, and all of a sudden you might have an intrusive thought. You might have flashbacks, or you're exhausted, you need a really good night's sleep, and then all of a sudden in the middle of the night comes the nightmares. All right, so these are sensory experiences, and we're going to look at there's visual experiences, auditory experiences, and olfactory experiences. you know Visual means that we're seeing images of an event in our life in the past, and it's very vivid, and you can see it in your mind's eye, if you will. And then there's auditory experiences. You hear sounds or words or music associated with a particular trauma, and it brings that trauma back to you. We all associate, a lot of times we associate songs with very good things, but other times certain songs may bring back these traumatic events in our lives. And then the olfactory sense, smelling an odor associated with an event, that can bring back memories, these intrusive thoughts, flashbacks. And you smell something associated with a person or with an event and so on. There's one Old Spice, cologne, aftershave, whatever it may be. Every time I smell it, it brings me back to some traumatic events because of the person who did these things used Old Spice. And you may have something like that in your life too, that you just smell something and it reminds you of some less than joyful times in your life. And then there's also our tactile response to things. Um, sometimes, feeling the sensation like we are being touched or we're in pain, you know, that nobody's there, but we feel like we're being touched, or some pain comes over us. And we don't know why. There's no physical explanation or anything like that. But this is also a part of complex PTSD is it causes physical pain, not just emotional pain, but physical pain as well. We will find when these things are going on, we're going to respond with intense emotions. And we may go into disassociation, confusion, panic. Our heart rate and breathing might increase. We might literally start trembling, or we'll feel dizziness, nausea, and muscle tension throughout our body, or an exaggerated startle response. Just somebody dropping a book near you or something might launch you into space because you're just that wound up about things in the past that that noise just gets you, and they will startle you. I see all these videos on social media today with these jump scare videos. Everybody finds them really funny, and I get that because the reactions can be hilarious. But those of us who suffer with PTSD or complex PTSD, loud noises out of nowhere like that can really put us into a hyper vigilant mode where, what's going on? How do I need to respond? Am I safe? And so on. So these are real things that have a real effect on people. And you notice I said exaggerated startle response. That may take us into ways of just reacting and maybe hitting somebody accidentally because we just threw our arms up or turned around quickly. You name it. I've had this happen to me in my life when I was growing up, and it caused troubles for me. Let's just put it that way. All right, now when we talk about the flashbacks again, they aren't always a visual thing. They can be a combination of visual, sensory, and emotional. And it's everything combined. All of a sudden, you're back there in that moment. You can feel it, you can hear it, you can smell it, you can taste it, you can see it. It's all there. And the thing with these flashbacks is there's no like set time for how long they affect you. They can last for seconds or hours. And I've experienced both of these where it's, for a second I'm flashing back, boom, oh man, there we go. Or for hours on end, I just can't get the flashbacks and the intrusive thoughts out of my head. They're just there, and I keep perseverating on them, and just they don't go away for a while. So that is part of the package that comes with complex PTSD. So we don't know the duration. They could be very quick, they could last for hours. And either way, they disrupt your mental process, how you're living your day, and everything else. So, what are some of the triggers or promptings that could cause you to experience these intrusive thoughts, nightmares, and flashbacks? Well, you go to certain places, you see certain people, you find yourself in certain situations, and our own internal thoughts and feelings can trigger us into the intrusive thoughts, the nightmares, the flashbacks. This is how it works. A lot of times for me, places, people, and situations in particular, they may not prompt something in the moment, but just experiencing the place, the person, or the situation later on in the day, maybe, or the next day, boom, I'm dealing with the intrusive thoughts. I'm dealing with flashbacks. And maybe in the night, I'm having a nightmare about the whole thing. And the reality is sometimes, depending on how we're feeling and how things happen, if we're in a place that's triggering us, it's best to get away before things go further down the trail. Certain people, we may need to avoid them for a while, or avoid them when we know that they've set us off in the past. Certain situations we find ourselves in, Well, we can't always control what's going on around us, that's for sure. But we need to be aware sometimes. Situations we're going into may cause some intrusive thoughts, may cause the flashbacks, may give you nightmares after you're done with that whole situation. And certainly, our internal thoughts and feelings can bring us right back to these things. There's no doubt about it. I've experienced this where, my thoughts just go in the wrong direction, and I start thinking about my trauma. And of course, it brings it all right here, right in front of my face. And then I start, my feelings around that start to crop up, and so on. Um, sometimes some somebody can just say the wrong thing, and boom, there you are. You're right back to where you were when certain events happened in your life, and it's a struggle. There's no doubt about it. But if you're experiencing these things, understand this is part of the package that we call complex PTSD, and there's healing available. There are things we can do, and I'm going to start sharing soon some of the books that have been helpful to me, some of the websites, some things to look at to see if this might be what you're dealing with, and so on. So, I just wanted to check in today and talk about these things. These are kind of at the top of the list of symptoms of complex PTSD. So, if you're experiencing these things, understand something we need to understand about, especially flashbacks. When we flash back to something, that's something that happened way back there. It is not happening now. So, one thing you can do is try to reassure yourself right now, you are safe. The moment you're in right now is not what that flashback is reminding you of. That's in the past. That person, that occurrence, that event, whatever it may be, is past. Right now, you're in the moment. And yeah, your mind may be bringing these images back to you, but you are safe. That individual, that situation, that's past. It's gone. They are not there with you right now. Uh, unless, of course, you are triggered by a certain person when you see them. Well, then there's a reality there that we have to cope with. And if that's a continuous thing, sometimes you just need to back off on certain relationships because they bring you right back to square one. Well, that's the stuff I wanted to share in this episode. Lord willing, there'll be another one coming out next week and the week after. Um, if you notice, my beard's gone, and that's because I'm preparing for bariatric surgery next week, and I'm going to try to put a few of these episodes in the can so they're ready to be launched every Wednesday. And Lord willing, that'll work out the way it should. But I hope this episode has been helpful to you, help you to understand a little bit more of what might be going on with you. I know as I go over these things, I'm reminded, okay, this is part of the deal. This is the package. This is what you have to deal with. And yes, these are going to happen, but you can't let them bring you into the old moment. Remember, you're safe where you are. Well, God bless everyone. Lord willing, we will be back together again soon. Take care.